Joining me now via Skype to discuss this development and much more, I have with me energy analyst Bala Zaka. Good to have you on the breakfast show today.
Good morning, viewers all over the world.
Let me have your first reaction now to the stance of the federal government insisting there would be no provision for electricity subsidy or petrol subsidy this year. It seems like a move in the right direction, but comes with dire consequences, especially as we look at the upward trajectory the rates and then tariffs have all gone so far.
Well, thank you very much for that question. And thank you for wanting to ask for my personal reaction. I am not surprised, though I was disappointed. And what I can say is this. These days, when we are talking about the performance of the Nigerian economy and our leaders, to be honest, as far as I'm concerned, is relative. It depends on who you're talking to. It depends on whether you're talking to an objective Nigerian, or you're talking to somebody who is a psychofan, or you're talking to somebody who is aspiring for a political office in future and is looking for ways not to be realistic about Nigeria. As far as I am concerned, subsidy is a globally accepted economic cushioning concept. And that simply means if subsidy does not work in Nigeria, or Nigerians or Nigerian leaders don't want subsidy to work in Nigeria, it doesn't mean it cannot work in other parts of the world. It's as straightforward as that. You were talking about that aspect of the economy, or those things that will make the aggregate economy to move positively and to make sure we are able to grow the GDP. As far as I am concerned, since we came into democracy in 1999, we're talking about 22 years ago. So when I talk now, I'm not talking about a political party or a political leadership. The last time I saw the removal of subsidy being thoroughly applied, that is the proceeds of the removal being thoroughly applied and used, was in the days of Abacha. In the days of Abacha, despite the sanction, the global sanctions on Abacha, Abacha introduced the PTF. We practically saw the values of the PTF then. And incidentally, the current president at one time or the other was the chairman of PTF. But fast forward everything to the days we went into democracy to now, 2021. To the best of my knowledge, removal of subsidy has not yielded any practical or fiscal dividend.
Removal of subsidies is supposed to take us closer to having cost-reflective tariffs at the end of the day. Now, in terms of developing infrastructure and also a sustainable pricing template, what do you think we should be doing now in terms of production capacity and refining for the oil sector, and also looking at the transmission, generation and distribution side of the power sector as well? What should we be doing in terms of the provision of infrastructure so that then we can beat down the cost component and Nigerians can then have these services come to them at a reasonable rate, because the inflationary pressures are hitting way too hard, especially with the impact of the COVID-19 also exacerbating a whole lot of issues here and there for the average Nigerian?
Thank you for that excellent question, sir. Since we started removing subsidy in the democratic dispensation that we went into from 1999, have you seen any new refineries being built because we removed subsidy? Have you seen factories coming up because we removed subsidy in electricity? The entire economy has been collapsing. And that was why I said, as far as I am concerned, it is something relative. People will talk based on how they see the economy. And this is my own approach and how I see the economy. How can I be happy as a Nigerian when the removal of this subsidy in electricity and probably diesel or petrol or distillates is leading to factories closing down and religious organizations are acquiring the lands where you had those factories and are converting them to places of prayers again to get jobs. When the factories that were there closed down and jobs are no longer available due to harsh economic reality and lack of petrol or electricity or lack of power. How can I be happy when I hear in this democratic dispensation our leaders and psychophants are saying Nigeria is a big or a great market, but in reality, it is outsiders that are bringing their products into Nigerians' big market and Nigerians are buying. Meanwhile, Nigerians have nothing to produce or have no product to export. As I speak to you today, the balance of trade is near zero. How can I be happy as a Nigerian when I can see, the budget of Nigeria showing a deficit that is continuously ballooning? How can I be happy as a Nigerian? Since we came into democracy, the value of Nigerian naira is either getting devaluated or is getting depreciated on daily basis.
Mr. Zaka,
in fact,
Mr. Zaka, we are starting the month of January as we see the year 2021 also unfold with new prospects and also with uncertainties with regards to the COVID-19 pandemic and the impact it has had. But now we are looking at creating a stronger manufacturing base. Now, petrol and electricity are critical elements towards spurring any sort of recovery beyond the manufacturing sector to other services sector. How now do we ought to create a formidable force, engagement lines, fine-tuning discussions, and have these services reach the hubs that ought to fuel the economy? Because SMEs still remain the engine of growth, but if they have to pay so much for electricity or fuel, then our growth trajectory for the year is highly limited.
Sir, when you talk about 2021, with due respect to you, sir, I think you are limiting the trend. I am talking to you, sir, with due respect about the chronology of the past 22 years since we came into democracy.
In the short term, what quick fixes do you expect us to get the economy back on track with all of the years of
when you talk about quick fixes, it's very clear that the quick fixes are not going to be there. Because you're talking about the oil and gas industry. Have you seen any template that will show you that we are ready to get the crude oil from the wellheads within Nigeria in Naira, move them to the respective refineries in Naira, refine them in Naira and distribute them to Nigerians in Naira and free ourselves from exchange rate differentials? The answer is no. Have you seen any steps that will show you that we are ready to use our more than 202 trillion cubic feet of gas to treat the gas into lean gas and use them to drive gas turbines and generate electricity so that there will be power and the SMEs you're talking about will come up? The answer is no. In the short term you want me to analyze, has security improved? The answer is no. Because we are talking about the Nigerian oil and gas industry, I want to talk about a global security calamity that just happened last week. And it happened in Nigeria and in Ida. As I speak to you, a great Nigerian that was working with Saudi Aramco from Ida in Kogi State by name Ogacheko Atanu, a former colleague of mine, came for Christmas from Saudi Aramco. And just last weekend, he was assassinated and hacked to death. And when he was just on the eve of his trip back to Abuja and to fly back to Saudi Arabia, as I speak to you, sir, with due respect, even if I hide it away from you, it is already known in the global community. It was a sad event for the global oil and gas industry. It was a sad event for all Nigerians working in diaspora and in Saudi Aramco. It was also a sad event for even the Nigerian oil and gas industry because it further, if you check, most of the media that have to do with the oil and gas industry globally, we're talking about that, and we're talking about insecurity in Nigeria. So with all this, look at the PIB. After almost more than 10 years, you've not passed the PIB. Sir, with due respect to you, if you were a managing director that was sent to Nigeria from your home country to come and invest in the oil and gas industry. And in the last 10 years, it has not been passed. And you tell your corporate office that you are waiting for the PIB to be passed, your corporate office will fire you. We've been delaying on that too, and most of the investors have decided to look for better investment havens. These things are practical. We are in the days of global community today. Nothing can be hidden.
Mr. Zaka, for the lack of time, we'll just have to pause this conversation, and definitely we'll have these hard talks being made at the end of the day, because we have to see strategic engagements, we have to have conversations, feel any sort of growth or prospect we expect, and we cannot just be comfortable with the current state of affairs in terms of security, our power sector, energy at large, and even the state of the economy in general. Thank you very much for your time on the Breakfast Show today, Bala Zaka.
Thank you, and I pray that we will achieve that soon.
Most definitely.